see we're on the air. We will have a short recess for 5 minutes until Councilor Adams can arrive. Thank you. March 29th, 2022 to order. This is the Legislative and Ordinance Committee. Let me say welcome. It's nice to see all these people in the audience instead of seeing you on a Zoom screen. Attendance, Councilor Adams.
Here.
Councilor Burns.
Here.
Councilor Figge. All of the committee is all here. Is there anyone recording this meeting besides the city? Seeing none. Looking for a motion for the approval of the minutes of February 10th, 2022.
Motion to approve the minutes from the February 10th, 2022 meeting as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any corrections, additions, or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. We've come to the part of the meeting for public participation. We have 3 minutes per speaker, 15 minutes allotted. Please let the record know who you are when you come to the podium. So anybody here would like to go for 3 minutes?
Good evening. I'm Carmel Stager, and I live in Wood Road, Westfield, Mass. I'm the chairwoman of the Friends of Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. I'm really here to introduce Jonathan McCatton. He is our director, our chair of development, and he would like to say a few words about complete streets.
Perfect, thank you.
Good evening. As Carmel said, my name is Jonathan McCatton. I live at 42 Arnold Street, and I serve on the board of directors of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. And I have just prepared written remarks to read from. I'm here to speak to you today to support the amendment of the Streets and Sidewalks Ordinance to include sections on complete streets. I know that you and the city believe that no matter how they choose to travel, the city's residents and visitors deserve safe, accessible streets that allow them to do so. The city has a duty to ensure that its people are safe when traveling along city streets, and having complete streets policies will enable the city to pursue additional funds to repair and rebuild these streets to be safe for everyone, no matter how they choose to travel. By enacting these revisions, you will reaffirm the city's commitment to its people to build streets that are safe for everyone and will open the path to pursue additional funds to achieve that goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to address? Thank you.
My name is Jessica Britton, and I live in town. I'm speaking tonight in opposition of complete streets. You can dress a pig up and put lipstick on it, but it's still a pig. Tighter government control was not what our forefathers envisioned for this republic. The Constitution was written to regulate government powers in the Bill of Rights for we the people's individual rights and freedoms. That's why at the close of the Constitutional Convention of 1787, a woman asked Benjamin Franklin, "Well, doctor, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy?" Franklin replied, "A republic, if you can keep it," which I'm sure everyone knows this phrase. It's very common. A republic is different than a democracy. In its pure form, a democracy, the majority has unlimited power, whereas a republic with written constitution limits the majority and provides safeguards for the individuals in the minorities. The Founding Fathers' intent was that at the national level there is a public representative. The word democracy is not mentioned in the Constitution. Most of the founders distrusted pure democracy with good reason. You have no authority to sell out the citizens of Westfield's rights just to make another buck off the state and government's advances, no matter how sexy they are, into communism. I have to divest my endowed rights, being a United States citizen, for the greater good, then that's exactly what Marxist story alludes to, including the pig and animal farm. It always fails into a dictatorship. I oppose complete streets for this exact reasons. Taking away our local controls and powers is very dangerous. You are towing the line in our quiet little suburb. Keep relinquishing our local powers and see what kind of government we will have. Exactly the same that Franklin warned of, George Orwell wrote of, and the Bolsheviks overthrew. Alexander Fraser Tytler is quoted as saying, "A democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that a democracy always collapses over loose fiscal policy, always followed by a dictatorship." The average age of the world's greatest civilizations have been about 200 years. These nations have progressed throughout the sequence from bondage to spiritual health, from spiritual faith to greater courage, from courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, from abundance to selfishness, from selfishness to apathy, and from apathy to dependence, from dependence back into bondage. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan?
Dan Alley, 38 Union Street. So I trust you councilors have had a chance to read the complete streets. This section is only 5 pages long, and I've also provided you with a copy of my comments. There are many concerns with the Complete Streets program. In 2016, the Westfield City Council rejected Complete Streets because it takes away local control, adds cost and unfunded mandates to all projects, both public and private, based upon a set of principles rather than the needs of a community on a project-by-project basis. Agreeing to these principles places more unfunded mandates on city staff, boards, and commissions, and obligates the city to future demands as determined by the state. Instead of a government based on the consent of the governed, Complete Streets seeks to work around local, state, and constitutional government by making it appear there is a consent or an agreement where there is none. Initially with a memorandum of agreement that is usually later or used later to adopt and then enforce still more compliance. The wording of the Complete Street Ordinance, so that section in front of you, is manipulatively written to ensure its coercive policies are adhered to using a carrot and stick technique to acquire funding. Complete Streets design done, this is really right out of it. But if I would go through it and just highlight all the sections where they tell you what you have to do. It says complete streets design recommendations shall be incorporated into all phases of all publicly and privately funded projects as appropriate. Cost alone shall not be considered a valid reason for rejecting further pursuit of such principles or options. And I know some city councils like trying to compare like the cost of a particular project to another one. I doubt it would be less. But you have to consider the overall cost because it's all these other projects. We start accepting it. It's not just on a one project basis. And I don't think it'll ever be less, but it's like the effect on all these other programs and even private things. It already costs way too much for government to build anything, from replacing a guardrail to building a bridge or installing a traffic light. The implementation of complete streets and the evaluation of its effectiveness mandate all or many things that city boards, departments, and officials will be required to do. The goal seems to be more about encouraging cities to adopt complete streets policy regarding all new construction than just providing funds to fix the roads. The state has a history of changing the rules down the road, including the ability to opt out of programs, as it did with the Business Improvement District. If the council passes the complete streets policy and it becomes a city ordinance, as written, the people of Westfield will assume the city council knew what it was doing, and we read this policy that we rejected in 2016 and supported it. In short, we will own it. Thank you.
Thanks, Counselor. Anyone else?
Mary Ann Babinski, oops, I was 114 Rogers Avenue. I remember those days in 2016, it was over 5 years ago, when this came before the City Council the last time. And I know it was rejected. I voted for it. I was in favor of it then. I am in favor of it now. And what I'm hoping that will happen, that's why I'm here today, is to listen to what some of your deliberation is going to be. And I hope to be at the City Council meeting if it is brought up at that meeting too. What I hope happens this time is that you do it a little bit more justice, that you don't just write it off because of a decision that was made over 5 years ago, which I think was the wrong decision. I hope that you give it some better time and attention necessary to really look into it and look at and separate fact from fiction. We're hearing a lot of things about these conspiracies. I don't know if it's a conspiracy to want to give residents, young and old, access, multimodal paths, safe travels, protecting their health and welfare in their neighborhoods. If that's a conspiracy, sign me up. I know from when we discussed this the last time, those over 5 years ago, it was a program that was introduced in Massachusetts. I think, Councilor Figge, you even mentioned that you spoke to South Hadley then, and they were in favor of it. They had signed on to it. Westfield's at the first stage of it. We're a tier 1 right now. And if you look at the map, you'll see how much it has grown across the state of Massachusetts. So before you write it off, I'm just going to tell you the number of communities in our area, Western Massachusetts, because there's a lot more communities across in the eastern part of the state. Agawam, Longmeadow, Springfield, Holyoke, South Hadley, Northampton, Otis, Great Barrington, Sheffield, Lenox, Pittsfield are just some of the communities that have gotten all the way to I think the last tier where they're putting together, they have approved projects that they're already working on. And it has grown so that there's approved policies in over almost 500 communities across the state of Massachusetts now. So it might be a good idea to reach out to some of those communities and learn from their experience. What are they saying about it? Were they taken? Are they stuck with things they didn't want to have before? Or was this a good thing? Have they benefited from it? Because from what I understood at the very beginning, the streets policy across the country was just something that a community or a town would promised to do, is signing something, a policy to say that when they are going to work on projects that have to do with their streets, that the members of their community are going to be using, that they would consider looking at that and consider making sure that they made them passable and equitable for all people, no matter what kinds of modes of transportation that they were going to use.
Can you wrap it up, your 3
Yes,
minutes?
Massachusetts then added the part which was about the ability to get some funding. So we decide what we want to do for a project, and if you want to, then if you're a Complete Streets community, you can go the next step and submit it to the state and ask for some funding. We do it for the municipal, the MVP program that we're involved in green communities now. So this is just another program like that. So I thank you very much, and I hope that you do a little bit more research on it than was done the last time. Thanks for your time.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Gabriela Mihilishin, and I live in Ward 4. In Ward 4, we have a culvert that failed, culvert/bridge, so we have a closed road for that. We also have Fowler Road, where part of one of the lanes is extremely bumpy because it's being washed out underneath the road. In Westfield, we have 250 miles worth of road, which we don't have funding for currently. The state has given us a number that we're supposed to be funding each year, and that's not the amount that our budget says. Until we can fund the repairs of the roads that we have, I don't think it's reasonable to add requirements every time there's any upgrades or reconstruction of a road. We have a road stabilization fund, and during the city council discussions about whether or not to fund that, the reason that they did not want to fund that is so that they could have flexibility each year in where to put the money. Complete Streets causes us to add to projects when it doesn't necessarily make sense to add to them. We have downtown area, we can make a choice to add bike paths as a city. Do we need to commit to adding bike paths to every single road that we touch for reconstruction? So I would ask you to seriously consider whether or not to commit to this, and to me, it does not look like a good commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council.
Hi, I'm Bridget Matthews-Kane. I'm at 81 Court Street. I'm the Ward 3 City Councilor. I'm here in support of 7 and 9, but I'm mostly here to talk about number 8, which is Complete Streets. Complete Streets is basically the idea that roads are currently designed for cars to be safe on them, and Complete Streets is to make them also to be safe for people who are walking, people who are riding bikes, people who are in wheelchairs, and people who are using public transit. If we do Complete Streets, people are saying that we'll be tied, but when you read the ordinance carefully, you will see that there's opt-out provisions. If the mayor feels like it's not a good fit for that road, he can write a request to not use Complete Streets there. I think there's a lot of good reasons for Complete Streets, but one reason that was not discussed last time was people are talking about theoretical problems that could happen if we adopt it. I want to talk about a real problem that's happening, and that is the number of accidents with pedestrians and bicyclists in our community. Over the past 20 years, we've had 424 accidents. That's roughly 21 a year. I will admit that some of those are kind of like fender bender, a scary situation where somebody wasn't hurt, but there are so many stories where people were really, really badly hurt in our community. And they're really tragic. And I know that because I did Freedom of Information Act requests, and I pulled all the crash reports, and I read them. And they're painful to read. I'm not going to go into details of particular people because I think those are people's own stories to tell, but it's really hard to read. When you see the number of children who are hurt on our roads and our streets, just trying to go to school or just walking to somewhere, it's hard to see. And I've brought, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm asking you to just flip through that. It's a list of the 424 accidents over the past 20 years. It's crash data from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. And just look at them all. Those are all people, and they're hurt on our streets, and we can just shrug our shoulders and say, oh, that's too bad for them, or we can be proactive and we can address this problem. Okay? And often in our culture, we think of accidents as inevitable instead of crashes that are preventable. Complete Streets tries to address not every single accident, but tries to address the fatalities and the severity of the accidents and just to reduce them. And it's not all over the street. When you look at the crashes, like when you look at a map where that pedestrian and bike accidents are, they tend to cluster in the same spot. They tend to be mostly Ward 2 and Ward 3. And not exclusively, but for the most part. And these are preventable. And I've read accidents reports where you can see the same people being hit in the same crosswalk over and over again. Our last 2 pedestrian deaths were elderly people in crosswalks. And we can do so much better than this. And if you're someone who's listening and you want to know what would Complete Streets kind of look like, it's the best place to look is the changes that were made on Western Avenue up in front of Stanley Park. We had 2 fatalities there. And we've added islands in the middle so that if you're crossing, you have a place to rest in the middle. We've added pedestrian-activated crossing lights that blink so people can, the cars can see that someone's trying to cross, and the road's slightly wider so there's a bike path that's
You need to wrap it
safer.
up.
So I'm just asking you, the number one thing I'm asking you to talk about that wasn't discussed last round is the number of tragedies that have occurred in our town and that we can prevent them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Make it real quick, 1 sentence. And I can count to 1.
Well, just to speak to, like Western Ave, now that was a project that was at the design phase 3 times at 25%. It took the residents of this city fighting with the state to move that bike lane out of Western Ave, and now we have a separate bike lane outside of the road where it belongs, okay? And it took the people of the city standing up, fighting to move that, and eventually they prevailed because common sense prevailed. We're putting lanes in roads, even getting to the city council here. And, you know, we're losing a lane. In the wintertime, we have almost no place for the car. We're putting lanes where they don't belong. If you look at Ludlow, when you get off the Mass Pike entrance, roads are beautiful, except there's a bike lane right in the middle. I've seen kids get hit by a car, okay? Why were you in the middle of the road? Not a good place, right? So it's not safe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Thank you all for your comments. I really appreciate the public participation in person. Item 6 is Attorney Brad Moyer submitting a notice of intent for Helen A. Allen, deceased, Linda A. Vaughn and Jeffrey A. Allen, trustees of the Robert S. Allen Funding Trust, to convert land to other use pursuant to MGL 61A, Section 14, for the land on North Road into residential use for the city's first right of refusal. Attorney Moyer, welcome.
So good evening, members of the committee. I have Linda Vaughn with me here too. She's an Allen and she's one of the owners, one of the trustees. To try and simply explain this, do you have a copy of our application?
We do.
If you look at, the easiest way is to look at Exhibit 3 first. Because what Exhibit 3 is a plan. And if you see, there's a kind of an odd horizontal piece of property, I mean a square in the front there that says other land of Allen, Robert and Helen. Mm-hmm. That's a piece 125 by 100. So remembering that, flip to the first exhibit, which is the plan of what we want to take out of 61. You see that odd square-shaped piece there with the house? That's the piece that's 100 by 125 that never was in 61A. The
Okay.
problem was, see the little strip to the left of the house that runs to the back parcel? What's in 61A is the rest of Lot 2 and Lot 1, including that little strip to the back. So that's what's under 61A. We want to convert this because we want to sell this to someone, a family member eventually. So we want to sell the house with the back piece. So this is no real part of the tree farm. It just was under 61A. The tree farm is to the right, I believe, right under the trees. And on the other side is the 90-some acres. So this is just really the house and the back land that really has to go with it, and that's where we want to convert to residential. So what we're looking for is, and you guys have the city has the right of first refusal. They have the option to purchase, and so that's what we're asking you to waive that. I don't know if, we had to submit this to the Conservation Planning Board. I don't know if those bodies have reported yet, Mr. Chairman?
The Conservation Commission, to my knowledge, had initial interest in accepting the first right of refusal, but I was told yesterday that they no longer were pursuing that avenue. So
I
as
think
far
they
as
were
I know, no one in the city is advocating for the first right of refusal at this time.
I think Conservation at first was confused because we had gone before the CPC a year or two ago, trying to see if there was interest across the street. In the 90 acres, the issue we had is the narrow entryway, if you ever seen that. We're going to go back sometime with them because there's a lot of interest, nice piece of property. They thought that was this, but it isn't. This is
Right.
the house and the land behind.
Yeah,
So
there is interest in the 90 acres.
there is, I know there is.
They did say that.
And then so the question is, are you going to be able to vote on this Thursday, or do you still have to wait for planning or someone else to?
We are in a unique situation where we don't have a meeting for 3 weeks.
Oh, you don't, so you're not,
So we
okay.
have
Okay,
another
plenty of
week
time.
after Thursday, so a week
Okay.
from Thursday.
That's right, there's no meeting, that's right.
Right,
So
so
plenty of
it's my
time.
intention, if I don't hear anything by then, we're gonna move, I'm gonna ask for a motion to move this forward tonight to the full council, and then if anything changes, we can deal with it at the council,
Okay.
so.
So that's not a meeting that we would need to come to then, depending on what you voted? Okay,
No, this is the one.
okay. I don't know if
Any-
anybody has any questions, but
Yeah, any
those two
questions?
plans are the easiest way to see what we're trying to do.
Right.
No, the only, so this is just lot number 2 is all we're talking about.
No, we're talking about, if you look at Exhibit 1, we're talking about Lot 2
Lot 2, yeah.
and Lot 1 in the back. See, if you look at Exhibit 1, see how Lot 1 has that little strip that goes by Lot 2?
Oh, yeah, just the strip, though.
Yeah, see, but,
Yep.
so that back land really needs to go with the house, because it's, you know, it's, we want to convert both of those to residential. So we need you to release all those. But the 100 by 125 foot piece where the house is was never under 61A.
So will
So,
that be kept as one lot?
yes,
Attorney,
it'll
or
be
will that
sold
be-
as, no, it'll be sold as one lot.
It'll be sold as one lot, okay.
Sold as one, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, there's not enough frontage for the back one, and
Okay.
whatever it was, they just left that for some access.
Oh,
But
okay.
They'll be sold all as one piece.
All as one piece.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to deny the city's first right of refusal for the land on North Road?
So moved.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, since this is land, we'll do a roll call. Counselor Adams? This
Is
for-
it a no to deny or a yes to no to deny?
It's a yes to deny. Yes denies.
Yes. Just clarifying that.
Counselor Burns?
What was it again?
If you vote yes, we're denying our first right of refusal.
Oh, yes, okay.
And Counselor Figgy, yes. Motion passes 3-0,
Excellent, thank you.
and this will be on the April 7th
April 7th. Okay,
meeting.
thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
That's why you can't.
It gets confusing.
No, it
Yeah,
does.
I know, I know.
Usually backwards.
Next is submitting an order establishing a revolving account entitled Off-Street Parking Lot Maintenance Cost Account, replacing a previously adopted order. Is anyone from Off-Street Parking here? Counselor Matthews Kane, I think you have information on this, do you not? You're the liaison. Would you please?
Thank you. I attended this meeting as a liaison, and the issue is Off-street parking has a fairly large pool of money that they use to pay for lot maintenance, but it's really prescribed what they are and are not allowed to spend the money on. They've had significant problems with dumping in especially one of the lots, but they've also had problems in some of the other lots. It's actually becoming expensive. The dumping is, to clear off all the dumping is expensive, and they want to proactively deal with it. So the thought is currently that they've gotten a bid for security cameras that will cover all their lots, and they'll be able to keep a closer eye on what's going on. They have enough money in the account to cover it. The problem is, like I said, it's really prescribed what they can spend the money on. They can't currently spend the money on cameras. So it's just changing the rules so that's an allowed expense.
Okay.
And that's it. Okay.
Thank you very much for pinch hitting. That was my understanding of the situation, but it's always better to get it from the horse's mouth. So thank you. Any questions? Basically, all we're doing is adding a category they can spend money on. Seeing none, since it's money, we'll do a roll call. Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Burns?
Yes.
Counselor Figgy, yes. Motion passes 3-0 and will be referred to the full council on April 7th. Item number 8, submitting an order amending Chapter 16, Streets and Sidewalks by adding Article 6, Complete Streets sections. Okay. In your packet, you all have received a copy of the Complete Street Ordinance as it would be voted on. We've heard people from both sides, those that are for complete streets and those that are opposed to complete streets, with their concerns and their support. Is there anything specific that anyone would like to ask us on the committee? Yeah,
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
President. Yeah, I don't know if I have any specific questions. I mean, I certainly appreciate everybody being here, and I certainly, I can certainly appreciate both sides of this, too. Nobody likes to, things that make something that we have to, that they don't pay for. However, in this case, they will pay for a lot of these things. I think we're doing it now. I think if you look at most of all our new construction, they're making handicap accessible, when you come down from the sidewalk. I was recently at St. Mary's Church, and they were putting these ramps in for the handicap, and I talked to the contractor, and they said it's mandatory that we do it now. So I think a lot of the things we're doing are something that's mandatory anyways by the state. We don't have a choice. So receiving, I think it's about $400,000 a year from the state. I could be wrong, but I think it's about that number. I have spoken to someone who's spoken to the mayors of the surrounding towns and says it's a wonderful thing. They're getting the money, they're getting a lot of things done, it's making people safe. So I certainly I certainly think that this is something I'm going to approve. If it's going to make people safer, the mayors around us say it's a great thing. We're already doing it now. I don't see why I will certainly vote for this. If it makes people safe, we're getting monies from the state to do it, and we do have there are situations where we don't have to do it. I will be voting for this Safe Streets.
Thank you, Counselor Adams. Counselor Burns, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that pretty much, but I mean, I understand both sides of the argument also, but I know it was rejected, I believe, in 2016 from the city council. I think it's evolved to a better point now than 16. I actually was on the Water Commission at that time, and it was brought to our attention. I know the city engineer was in favor. I know the mayor, the present mayor is in favor. So, again, like Councilor Adams, I'm going to be in favor of this. Complete streets.
Thank you. I think I was one of the lone wolves with former Councilor Babinski that voted for this in 2016. I have not changed my opinion of that. I think that this newer version is reduced, it's easier to read and understand, and the key to me is the local opt-out provision that's in there. It does allow for local control, and that's very important. If it was a rubber stamp mandatory every single one, I would not be for it. But with the local opt-out clause that just requires the mayor to write a letter, I think that the citizens are here to be protected by that. I also understand from our city engineer that this process is already being implemented. We are doing this as we go forward with our new projects. So why would we want to do this and not collect the revenue is a mystery to me. I have had 2 external emails from people that aren't able to make it tonight that they would like me to read, and I will do that at this time. The first is for Travis Brenner. He says, "Good afternoon. I'm reaching out regarding complete street agenda item set for consideration this coming Tuesday. I understand the allure of additional funding is tough to turn down, but accepting money from any entity always cedes some amount of control to that entity. Additionally, I tried looking into the program myself and found it an intimidating amount of information that I need to go through to become familiar. Often complex programs like this come with strings attached that only later become visible and difficult to maneuver around. Should you seriously consider this program, be sure to do your complete due diligence in both studying exactly what we will be on the hook for in the future and fully educating the citizens of Westfield. My hope, though, is that you will work to keep local decisions local, once again rejecting complete streets." The second is from Mr. Jack Curdy, Westwood Drive. "Dear Mr. Figge, I see that Mayor McCabe has requested City Council to add complete streets to our city ordinances. I write you today in support of complete streets. I ask that you support complete streets too in Mayor McCabe's effort to secure funding needed to move Westfield forward. My letter will include parts A and B. Part A offers my rationale for supporting complete streets as a way towards where we want to be heading as a community, in short, towards a respectful, inclusive approach as we develop together an improved quality of life in Westfield. Part D endorses complete streets because it will take us away from the horrific real-world consequences that have been experienced by my family and far too many others in Westfield as a result of road-related deaths. As I am sure you know, my father was killed on Western Ave, hit by a pickup truck while riding his bike by Stanley Park. Maybe you knew him. He did much for Westfield, and he was well known in the area. I've attached the latest photo we have. An overarching framework is needed to guide the planning and financing of road work in Westfield. Complete Streets will provide such a framework to enable Westfield to qualify more essential state funding. I'm confident you will conclude, as I do, that the mayor's request for Complete Street needs your endorsement." I'm going to spare everybody the remaining parts of that. They're pretty personal, his experience with his father's death. So I'm looking for a motion. I'll make the motion to be, go ahead, Councilor Adams.
Motion for a positive recommendation for consideration and approval of an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Westfield, adopted June 17th, 1993, by adding Chapter 16, Streets and Sidewalks, Article 6.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0 and will be forwarded to the full council. Item number 9, submitting an ordinance amending as recommended by the Traffic Commission relative to no parking on one side of Pearl Street. The Traffic Commission has met and they made a recommendation to limit parking on Pearl Street to one side. Currently, you can park on both sides. Pearl Street rather, is a very narrow street that doesn't really allow for safe travel when there's parking on both sides of the road. The neighborhood was canvassed before the decision was made by the Traffic Commission. I do believe the Ward 3 councilor is in support of this. Any questions?
No, are we voting on both?
There's two different
9
ones.
and
Do
10.
one at a time? or-
One at a time. yeah.
Okay.
So the first one is for Pearl Street. Do I hear a motion?
Motion for positive recommendation by adding Pearl Street North Side westerly from Holland Ave to Pleasant Street, no parking.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Next one is submitting an ordinance amendment as recommended by the Traffic Commission relative to no parking on one side of Linden Street. This was along the same lines. This is in Ward 2. and I am in support of this. Linden is similar to Pearl in its width. It doesn't have the width necessary for parking on both sides. Again, the neighborhood was canvassed by the Traffic Commission, and they are in favor of this as well.
Is that Linden Avenue or Linden Street?
Linden Street's down behind Avenue Gibbs in there.
Right,
Yeah.
so it's a street. It says Avenue on here.
Oh. Well, maybe, we'll go by whatever it says on the,
It says Linden Ave, north side, for
Linden Ave,
intersection
north
of
side.
Dudley Ave and driveway of
all right,
number
so I
7
stand
Linden.
corrected, it is Avenue. Linden Ave. Okay. Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Motion for no parking on Linden Avenue north side from the intersection of Dudley Avenue to the driveway of number 7 Linden Avenue.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Positive recommendation, motion passes 3-0. Last one is submitting an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2-5, Ward Street, Sections 2-6, precincts by deleting the sections in their entirety and inserting in place thereof their amended wards and precincts as a result of the redistricting which become effective December 31st, 2021. Madam City Clerk, is it something nobody wants to know about their new voting place? Thank you for coming in tonight. Can you briefly decipher this
I'm
jargon
Brianna
that
Sack.
was in our packet?
So this is the ordinance that replaces the current ordinances. This gives the word description of the ordinance based on the map that you've already accepted. So this is the map that was accepted back in October, and this went into effect on December 31st. So this is just the taking of the map and putting it all out in words and giving the description of each ward and each precinct.
Perfect. And you have maps?
So this is the map, this is the most current map. This is the final version of the map. I only have one. If you want copies, I can ask engineering to print you copies.
I would appreciate that, especially
Yeah.
for the ward counselors,
Yeah.
if you could get
Sure.
copies of the
Yeah.
map for each ward.
The whole map? I mean, will that be on file to see?
Yes, this will be on file with this ordinance, so that you can read the words that go along with the map, so you can see it all.
If they were to walk into City Hall, would that be posted somewhere, Karen, or
No,
would
we
it be, they'd be able to access it, people, if they had a question?
We'll have it, it'll be in the office, yeah.
Oh, well.
I don't know if we have any
All right,
place
that's
to
fine.
put it, actually.
I know as a ward counselor, I would appreciate, I know my ward has changed. So I
Okay.
would like to do some outreach to those folks that are either new
Actually,
or
yeah.
I've lost, and let them know where they get to vote next time.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions for Madam City Clerk?
Nope.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a positive recommendation for Chapter 7, Section 2-5 and Section 2-6 be amended by deleting the sections in their entirety and inserting in place thereof the following effective December 31st, 2021, Section 2-5 wards and as written.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Okay. Anything else,
Thanks, Karen.
gentlemen? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Nice motion. Second.
All in favor?
Jump on it.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned.